Hello, pod smashers of the internet, and welcome to another episode of
80-bit Pod Smash,
where gaming goes to grab a beer. We are your hosts,
Penguin and Termite. I'm Penguin.
and I am Termite, and we are a weekly video game podcast smashing together ideas that we care about, you care about, with video games.
We care about them too. That's very true.
Yep.
Tonight we are going to be hopefully on either the last part or the second to last part of our long, epic, bit off more than we could chew series about the Wikipedia's list of video games considered the best, where we go through all the entries on that list. We'll talk about why that list exists in the first place and why we chose to use it to be the foundation of this series. And then we will talk about each entry on the list and see what we think about its presence and why we think it does or does not deserve to be on that list, or why we're just confused because we don't know anything about it, right? I'll say that there have been several games that have showed up on this list that have made me more interested in them by their sheer existence. So we'll see how that goes.
And
go ahead.
we're going to cut favorite things in DLC from our episodes.
That's
tonight.
right. Yes.
If you are
Good
new
heads
to
up.
us, you have no idea what I'm talking about. This is episode 251. Episodes go live every Monday at midnight. Thanks for coming with us and sticking here. And favorite things is usually a segment of our show where we talk about something that we're digging for the week to share it with you. And DLC stands for downloadable content because both of our names are Dan, and we thought it was a fun play on words for downloadable content, DLC. And those segments are not in this episode, but they are in every one of our other ones. So if you,
Yes,
that's
so
what
setting
we are talking about.
expectations.
Yep.
Exactly. Yep. So if you liked this and listen to the next one, or are like, wow, this was a crap episode, maybe I should give another one a shot because the one thing it was missing was cool segments. Go check out one of the other ones. But anyway, so we won't get to those things, but we will get more on the list and jump right into that pretty quickly. But first, we will take time for the most important thing, which is we are where gaming goes to grab a beer. So what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking Dogfish Head's 120-minute IPA. I'm doing it. I'm going all in. We're recording 2 episodes tonight. This is the one beer for both shows. So, yeah, what you have here, this is reading the bottle, is the holy grail for hopheads. This beer is continually hopped for over 120 minutes.
It is true.
For a
Yep.
120-minute boil, and then dry hopped for over a month. Enjoy now or age a decade or so. And funnily enough,
Wow.
there is a secret stash in Rehoboth. It's not that secret. It's like front and center in their store, but they call it the secret stash of all of the 120 minutes from like 2010 through 2015. You can get every year and buy the bottles individually. It does age very well, and it changes the taste drastically. Anyway, super full of hops, very thick, very boozy. These things run up to 18% every year. They come out
They're
with
great.
a new
I
one,
love
and they're a
them.
little bit different. And it's a perfect summer beer, and it's summer. So here we are.
I am drinking, it's called Gumball Head by Three Floyds. I saw this at Food Lion. It's got a very colorful
Yeah, look at that.
thing.
It's like graffiti art on the can.
Yep. And it says it's not normal, so it's perfect for me. Let's see here. It is a American wheat ale brewed with white wheat and dry hopped with hand-selected hops from the Yakima Valley, bright and refreshing with a lemony finish. This is the kind of like balanced hops that I like, where it's like it's got that little bit of that bitter flavor, but it's balanced out with like both sweet and beery taste, right? Like, so it's light, it's refreshing. It looks like pea, but like
there you go,
bubbly pea.
If your pee looks like that,
got
you need to
that
drink
right
more water.
Amber. It's true. Sometimes it looks like this, and that is exactly what I say when my pee looks like this, is I need to drink more water. As long as your pee doesn't look like that, you're probably okay. Good Lord, that's like red.
I was holding up my 120-minute to the camera, and it's very
So this is
very
like
amber.
this is bubbly. This is very
like
it's got a nice
champagne.
bubbly. So
Yeah.
I've actually had like I had this with our mutual friend Ryan. He came over. We did in my head I call it wife swap, but it's not. It's the opposite of that. It's just like spouse swap. So like he came down and my wife went up to hang out with his wife. So we just so that's kind of where it's trying to start doing stuff like that, just to be more social with like the last friends we have left here.
And it works with the children. That's the main reason for it.
Exactly.
The
The idea, well, it's that in part, but also last time we did it, we just did it after the kids went to bed. So anyway, so we split some of these, and they're good. They're good. It's like, again, it's just the kind I like, where it's
trying to make me have all the
It feels
FOMO
refreshing.
feels. Is that what you're trying to do?
Absolutely. That's exactly
Gotcha.
it.
Okay.
So
Well, then you've won. I'm
Ooh.
moving back. That's it. Yep, I'm uprooting my whole life. I'm coming back.
If it was that easy, good Lord, I would start hanging out Ryan a lot sooner. Now, if I knew it was that easy, then now I said, no, you're not welcome back here. We won't hang out with you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then I'm coming back to Charlottesville. I'll stay here. I see how it is.
Oh, okay, cool. So you went, and then you came back, and then you left again. Got it. Cool.
Yep.
All right. So, anything you want to talk about before we start?
The reason why I highlighted some new folks, and I want to give special thanks to some of the conversations I've had in person lately. If you have talked to me about my podcast and you are here now listening, thank you for listening to our show, because it's been a couple of conversations I've had around the neighborhood. Some folks that dropped off our IKEA furniture were interested in seeing the games, so they had like a little show and tell. I had a little show and tell with the game collection that they dropped off my furniture in, and so just thanks for being here, and please reach out to us on our social medias and stay and hang out and enjoy the 250 other episodes of this podcast.
Yeah,
my gosh, we've been doing this for a while.
Content. Yep.
Yeah.
We're old.
Yep.
I've got gray hair. I was recording a Marco Polo today, and I noticed how much gray hair I had. I don't know if you noticed, we have in the past 3 months received 3,038 downloads.
Yeah, we've been bumping. That's why I'm thinking
June was a nice bump. June and April, and then May it was like piddly.
Yeah,
but then it was fascinating.
So,
Cool. Well, yeah, then welcome, guys. Thank you all. Well, then I guess if there's nothing else to talk about, we can jump right into our main topic, which feels weird. It feels like cheating to just jump right in.
We're going too soon. We're going too soon.
We're going too fast. Yeah.
Well, we have to talk about our list, what we're doing.
Oh, yeah, touche.
Here's what our topic is. Yeah.
So we've been doing this for 9 times. We started and we thought, oh, yeah, we could easily just talk about this. I guess in my mind, when I thought about it, I thought we were just going to literally just like kind of read the list and then talk about the highlights. But pretty much everything's become a highlight. Not everything, but certainly there's a lot to talk about with each one of these when you consider like why they should be on this list. So the reason this list exists and why we chose it as sort of a nice kind of like litmus test for, because the idea of what are the best video games of all time, it's kind of subjective. There's no objective way of doing that. You couldn't really do it by Metacritic scores. You couldn't really do it by, although I would imagine most of these games have high Metacritic scores, but still, there's always the like Destiny's going to have like a crappy Metacritic score because it's controversial, right? It's a hot game and it's always changing. So the bottom line is that like there's not really other litmus tests with which to judge this. What they did, though, what the people who wrote this article did and apparently continue to do with some regularity, is they scour the internet for journalists, publications that put together lists of the best video games of all time, and then they pick from those lists. They basically like if an entry shows up more than 6 times or 6 times or more, I think it is, then it shows up on this list. So that's kind of how they do it. I think it works out pretty well, not perfectly for sure. There's certainly some glaring omissions. There's certainly some things, and especially as we get closer to what's more recent, where we have much like different criteria as the industry changed, then we're going to see things that we're going to be like, nah, no way. There's no way it should be on here. But it is still an interesting kind of way of doing things because, again, the people who take time to write those lists, they're big publications, right? They're not going to take the issue lightly, and they're not going to try to sit there and just be like, well, I want to win reading points, right? Like, no, I think they're going to consider that. And even if they don't, even if they are flippant about it or super opinionated, it's still got to pass through it like 6 times, right? Like 5 additional times. So I think it works out. So yeah, again, we're not saying it's a perfect list, but I do think it's a really interesting litmus test. And it's been surprising to see what's shown up on here.
A couple of other things is it's not really sequential. Yes, this is the 9th time that we've done this. We're starting in 2011. We don't cut years in half. So it's not really like if you've missed parts 1 through 8, you're not missing. You can jump right in. We're just here in 2011. We started in the 70s as early back as this list goes. And we've done as much as we could fit into an episode at a time in chunks. And here we are, part 9. Also, we're not looking at the grand list of video games to highlight what's not on this list. We're not that cool. We're not that omniscient.
Gosh. Yeah.
We know our video games, but we're not that good. So if there's a glaring omission that you're aware of, audience member, please, you can let us know. That would be awesome, actually. Be like, hey, this game should belong on 2011's list or whatever. So that'd be great. But we're not going to go through that aspect of this list. Sometimes people do that when they're like, greatest games of all time. Where is Monkey Island. It's not on here, or maybe it is, but
It is
anyway.
on here. It's actually on
Yeah.
there.
It's like the most random game I could think of. But anyway, yeah. So we'll start in 2011, and we'll work our way
How
through.
about
and-
Knack? Where's Knack? Like Knack
come on.
is highly considered a great game. I haven't played it myself,
No,
but like
it's actually kind of a meme. It's kind of a joke.
Oh,
it's
is it?
good, but it's
a
beloved.
joke?
It's cult following, but it's not objectively like good.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Cool.
Yeah.
Who knows? Give it like 15 years, and that cult following becomes like a thing,
Mainstream.
right? That's
Knack
how.
5,
In fact,
please.
that's how half of those games from like 30 years ago showed up on this list. Like, guarantee you, some of these games were not good and well received when they first came out, and yet they show up on this list because they get cult followings. But anyways, I digress. All right, well, that is that then. So if you have problems with our methodology here or Wikipedia's methodology here, then come at me, bro. I mean, engage legitimately. That's not a threat. It is a like, yeah, no, seriously, let's talk about it because I would love to have that conversation. All right, so we're starting in 2011. Last time we left off with Xenoblade Chronicles, Super Meat Boy, Super Mario Galaxy 2. Those are kind of the things that we highlighted last to finish off the last year and start us off on the decade. If we can plow through this, then we can do this only 2 more times because, again, these lists start to get smaller and smaller each year as we go through the 2010s. I would imagine to see this decade fill out more as like a couple decades pass, as people
I hope
grow
so.
fond
Yeah.
of more games from these years.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, there's definitely like, it gets kind of scant. But anyways, that's, going to be interesting to talk about. Either way, I think we can do it in 2 more times. It'll be interesting to like come back to this list in like 5 years and see how much it's changed in this particular set of decades. But cool. All right. Well, so we're going to jump off then, like I said, and talk about Batman Arkham City. And did Arkham Asylum make it on this list?
It did.
It did. Okay, cool. So Arkham City, the follow-up. This is back in the day when sequels were predictably good for good games. So what do you think about this one?
This is a wonderful follow-up in the best way possible. So
Yeah.
Rocksteady was the developer. They came out with Batman Arkham Asylum in 2009, and it turned the world upside down for third-party action superhero games. They're a unique combat system. They're dark, real, gritty tone. All of that is here.
Kind of bringing the beat 'em up into the 3D space, right? We talked about this in the last episode where it's like, this wasn't a franchise, but this was a genre that was like, oh yeah, this is honoring sort of the beat 'em up games, smash 'em up, whatever you call them, smups.
Yeah, Smups.
Arcade games, and but bringing it into a 3D space with more.
They did. So with Arkham City, they turned up everything. There's more story. There's bigger world to explore.
Open
There's
world.
More,
Open
it's,
world.
Yeah, it's open world.
Yep.
Just an
Well,
awesome
sandbox.
all-around package. So it's much more to bite off than Arkham Asylum. Arkham Asylum was more streamlined, a little bit more linear than Arkham City is now. So, but it's awesome, and I'm glad it's on this list because they really did nail the sequel idea. They didn't really reinvent everything. They didn't go crazy and try to do something entirely
They just
different.
made it bigger, better, and
A perfect
cooler.
iteration.
Yep.
In a modern day,
Fantastic.
its legacy is Spider-Man. So if you played Spider-Man, you can appreciate Arkham City. And that's pretty much all I got to say
That's
about
pretty much it. Yeah, no, I definitely agree that between the two of them, actually, my understanding, I haven't played them, but between the two of them, my understanding is Arkham City is way more beloved and was probably the peak of that franchise as we look towards like Arkham Knight and some of the other ones. So,
there was
but I mean, you can't do much better as far as performances go. You can't do much better than Mark Hamill as the Joker, and
right.
I am blanking on Batman's actor, but he's super famous.
the voice actor for Batman.
The voice
that was in
actor
this
for
game.
Batman. Yep. He was recently in the news because
Kevin Conroy.
That's it. Yep, Kevin
Yep.
Conroy. So he was recently in the news because he's gay and it was Pride Month, so they had interviewed him about what it was like to basically be the voice of like one of the most masculine cartoon characters during an
nice.
era where
Yeah.
I think he had to be in the closet or whatever. It was so fascinating story of Kevin Conroy. But the two of them are legendary. They are the Batman and Joker I grew up with. So
Yeah,
more
they did
so
the
than
animated
any
series,
of the
right?
others. Yep, exactly. Yep.
Awesome.
Cool,
I didn't
cool.
realize the Batman was the same. I thought they had just preserved Mark Hamill. Cool. I learned something new. That's fantastic. Hey.
Yep. All right. So the
what's
next
next?
one, oh man, we could talk. I have talked about this game for like the last year, so I don't really need to say anything more about it other than Dark Souls, 100%. Follow up to Demon Souls. Again, talking about just like follow ups, bigger, better. This took all the ideas from Demon Souls that worked and scrapped some of the ones that didn't work and just really overall made a more compelling game. I mean, I fired up last year the remastered version for the first time, and I'm telling you, man, it holds up. Like it looks a little bit janky. It's got a little bit of like, it's a game from 2011. It's like unavoidably got that. However, it feels like a modern game. If more importantly, it feels like a modern Souls game, right? Like it feels, and even in comparison to like Dark Souls 2, I've played, played them both back to back, even in many ways comparison to Bloodborne, because Bloodborne, visually speaking at least, is hampered by the 30 frames, whereas Dark Souls Remastered is 60 frames.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it holds up, and it is, again, just this game and another game on this list, basically from this year, basically created like a whole new genre, whole new genres of games. So
The Soulsborne.
good on them.
And it was I talk about another sequel here. Demon Souls, when it came out, was new, obtuse, and strange to a lot of people, while it objectively
The president of
reviewed
Sony
well.
hated it.
Yeah, exactly. The president of Sony hated it, and it got an 89 in Metacritic on PS3. It was a PS3 exclusive.
Oh yeah, it was reviewed very well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it like didn't really have a lot of user reception, and it didn't sell very well. But Dark Souls,
It was something new for its time, but Dark
Right.
Souls, yeah.
nailed it. So there we have 2 on this list from 2011 already that are sequels or follow-ups that are really crushing how to do a proper follow-on.
Mm-hmm. I think that, and I will end my last thought here, but I do think it's because I think it's pertinent. I think that what Miyazaki was able to do with Dark Souls was like, because I having played both, I think I said while I was playing Dark Souls, is like I can see why this was different from Demon Souls, right? Like it's not 2 identical games, right? Like there are aspects of Demon Souls that just didn't work and just weren't very good compared, and that was even with the remake. So coming onto Dark Souls, it was like, okay, yeah, this is something special, and yeah, good for them that it did.
Yeah.
So, all right, the next one too is can be talked about forever, so we can try to wrap it up. But I mean, we're still talking about this game to this day. We're still seeing this game being ported onto refrigerators and microwaves across the country. Elder Scrolls V Skyrim.
Yeah.
Oh man, just I mean, kind of at the time was sort of the peak perfection of its style of open world, and every open world game would be mimicking this game until Breath of the Wild. So for the next 6 years, not only would this game keep reinventing, it's like not reinventing, but remastering and re-releasing itself, but it wouldn't be until Breath of the Wild that this game would get dethroned as far as like open world game design.
Mhm.
So what did it do right? What did it do right that hadn't been done up to this point?
So in the previous Elder Scrolls entries, Morrowind and Oblivion, both of which utilize like newer technology, newer hardware, where Skyrim is definitely, again, the perfect iteration sequel that is now the PlayStation 3, of course, aside. Let's not talk about that version because that was crazy. It came out separately. It was a bad port. It's notoriously awful. Man. But the 360 and the PC versions of Skyrim were the natural follow-on to Oblivion, which were all on that PC platform.
Yep.
It utilized the same engine Fallout 3 also did. This is all Bethesda. But what Skyrim did was expand the world, expand the story, deepen the quest lines, and expand the ability of customization from the player. There were so many different, there's astrological signs you can develop. There's every type of armor you can imagine, all the different types of weapons and magic. You can level up so much stuff. And plus you get to become a dragonborn and get skills from dragons, which was awesome. And then
it kind of took that idea of like, well, also kind of took that idea of like, okay, well, it really kind of perfected the RPG in this space. I believe they did this with Oblivion as well, but like because of the popularity of Skyrim, it really made it a thing where it was like, with what you'd see with The Witcher later is like, yeah, you more or less can still get through all the content. There are certain choices you'll be locked out of, but in Skyrim, there was entire quest lines, there was entire powers. There were entire things that were like, yeah, no, if you go werewolf, you're never going to get to be a vampire and see all of what that has to offer. And then vice versa, right? So if you go to the school and you can go to the school, but if you make certain choices and don't have certain thresholds when you get there, you're not going to be able to enroll as a wizard in the school. So you're going to be locked out of entire quest line, right? So it's fascinating how much they sort of really leaned into this idea of like, yep, choices are meaningful in Skyrim.
And you really can, like, you can kill NPCs and you'll never shop from them again. You can ruin your quests and your main storyline by killing certain NPCs. And you'll have to, like, you can still beat the game, which is even fascinating how they've planned and executed the storylines to do that. So it's legendary for 2011. Nothing had ever been done at this scale before. But it is Bethesda, so that's what they do.
My only problem with it was the hardware was aging so bad at that point.
Oh yeah, it was rough.
That when I played it on 360, it was killer. Load times were killer.
Yep.
I really need to revisit it on a remastered version on modern hardware because I think I would appreciate it more.
Yeah.
without having to deal with like that. So, I mean, if I could appreciate Dark Souls,
Yeah.
there's no reason on
I'm
modern
actually
hardware.
thoroughly enjoying Skyrim as we speak on PlayStation 3, which was its worst platform.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah?
it's been patched, but it's
Nice.
still awful, and I'm loving it. So
you're digging it. Cool. All right, Minecraft. Finally, we have an original game from this year. This is the other one I said that made the whole genre, right? Like, I mean, this is it still the highest generating revenue? It's up there. It's one of the highest generating revenue games of all time. Originally came out on PC only, PC exclusive. Again, it has since been bought by Microsoft, but at the time, it was legitimately like the indie to end all indies, right? Like, this game was legitimately like the indie success story. It's not the first indie success story on this list, but it was the like templated. This was what indie games aspired to. And it's not hard to see why. They really took the idea of the sandbox and then they merged it with a puzzle / building / like gathering survival kind of game. And people took it and made it something great, right? It's the Minecraft community, I think, more than anything else that made Minecraft what it is, for better or for worse. But yeah, this game, like, I've never even played it, and I can still say that Minecraft absolutely deserves to be on this list. And for all my complaining and moaning, I will say that Minecraft Steve probably deserves to be in Smash.
At this time, it was very indie, and it was one person who started the company, Mojang.
Yep.
Now it's acquired by Microsoft. It's on Game Pass. But this is also Microsoft's example of being crossplay and putting it everywhere. You can play Minecraft on the Switch, and you sign into like a Xbox account to do that. So it's full-blown open world Legos. Do whatever you want, but also
that's it. Legos, and we had talked about this in our Lego episode. How this game is what Lego should have. Like, Lego should have made this game.
They should have,
with all the backing of Lego. Yeah, this is what a Lego game should be like, and yet such a missed opportunity for them. Yeah, here we are.
But the survival genre was really revived, codified, whatever you want to call, like exemplified here in Minecraft. Their survival mode was next level. Hunger and hunting and all of those things are here. Plus building your own bases to protect yourself.
And this would be, and this would even just sort of lay the foundations for Fortnite, right? In the sense of like the idea of building, crafting, making fortresses and stuff like that. Fortnite would take that and, template it inside the Battle Royale space. And, again, I don't care about any of that yet. I still can recognize its impact on the video game industry and therefore its success as like game design. So cool. All right. So to round out 2011, we have another sequel here, but one that is also well deserved on this list, Portal 2. Portal just, I mean, man, everything freaking Valve touches turns to gold and then just disappears.
Yep.
It's crazy, but yeah, Portal 2. There's not much to say, but other than just like you said, bigger, better, puzzle solving, more intricate, more interesting, more fun with the story. They took what they knew people liked, right? People liked the puzzles, they liked the platforming, they liked the first person mechanics, they liked the cool gun, and they liked the funny robot that along the way. So they're like, here's another funny robot. Here's the same funny robot from the last one. So you got 2 robots now, and also plenty of cool gun physics puzzle things. Boom.
Yeah.
Portal 2.
The biggest iteration here was co-op was introduced. So you could play through the game together with friends. And it was ported to consoles for the first time. Portal 1 wasn't.
Yes,
so this was like PS3, Xbox 360. Yeah, Valve's gold. Like, Portal 2 is on the list of a lot of people's best video games of all time. The writing is flawless. The voice acting is perfect. The animations, the technical achievement that it was, everything about the game, the source engine was finally being like, I feel like at this time with Half-Life 2 Part 2, and Portal 2, the orange box, like the source engine was really becoming something that can be leveraged for a lot of awesome like technical prowess. And yeah, Portal 2 is it. So if you ever have any interest in shooting portals and running through them, this is the game to play. You can skip Portal 1 and just go straight to 2 because it's so good. Yeah,
Portal 1 is good too. I would never tell anyone to skip Portal 1. That is a fun game, even by today's standards.
I love Portal 2.
No, I also understand Portal 2 is I just never played it and I wanted to. I mean, man alive, I think I almost bought a 360 to play Portal 2. I don't remember what was going on, but I remember being hyped about Portal 2 coming out, and then I just never ended up getting it.
To this day, huh?
But it's so disappointing. Yeah.
No,
so,
well, all right.
Cool. All right, let's talk about Dishonored, because this is
we switched years. This is a whole new year. 2011's over.
Right.
Yeah, we're switching to 2012 now. Just
2012.
let our audience
Me
know.
and my wife got engaged this year. This is the year we got engaged.
Keep it family friendly.
Right before the 2012 apocalypse. So
Portal 2 is $2. Go buy it right now on Steam. Portal 2 is $2.
what if I want to play it on PlayStation 5 and get trophies?
The only way you could get it on PlayStation is through PS3. So go buy a PS3 console and a PS3 copy of the game.
Back of your head is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay. Dishonored. It was the first game in 2012 on this list. Interesting pull. We've seen the most kind of recent iteration of Dishonored in the form of Deathloop. But what they started here was a stealth game with this aspect of powers, and the promise of this game was that you could get through the whole thing without killing anybody if you played it right.
Mm-hmm.
So supposedly got a really good story, supposedly got cool mechanics, and I've heard that they lock the good ending behind not killing, like the pacifist run, which is an interesting choice. And yeah, I've always wanted to do it, but also never wanted to do it. So,
that's how
I feel.
I have actually dabbled in this game. I won't talk about my own personal take because we're talking about this list and why it's here. So Arcane Studios, I do believe this was like their first big hit. It's published by Bethesda Softworks. Yep. So this is kind of what put Arcane on the map. It's set in a industrial city of Dunwall, where technology and otherworldly forces coexist. And of course, there's like an oppressive regime, so it has that like Bioshock kind of vibe and feel to it. And you're right, it's like taking all the things about stealth combat or stealth in video games and turning it on its head to where you can actually go through the entire video game without killing anyone because you have to perfect stealth and pacifism. So yeah, it's wild. It's an interesting title to say the least. And like I said, I dabbled in it. It didn't hook me, but it is objectively amazing. And of course, there's a sequel to it.
Sure. I mean, like I said, Arcane making bold choices for even games by today's standards, right? Like, first of all, the idea of a full pacifist run is still pretty revolutionary. And then like locking the good ending behind the pacifist run, like nobody else is doing stuff like that. So fascinating. So
cool stuff.
All right, Far Cry 3, I really have very little to say about this, other than this game was sort of to my understanding, was peak Far Cry.
Yes, that's insane that you've never played it. Do you know what insanity is? That's a quote from the villain. But it had one of the best villains in video games to this day. Voss, I believe his name is, played by the same guy who plays Nacho in Better Call Saul. I have to Google this now because I want to get the names right. Better Call Saul. Is his name Nacho? His name is Nacho Varga. He's same actor, which his name is Michael Mando, is who plays Voss in Far Cry 3. You're right. Far Cry 3 is peak Far Cry. It takes place on a tropical island. A group of white teenagers show up on this island. They party and get drunk, trashed, wasted, and they all get kidnapped by a band of rebels, kind of like vigilantes overthrowing the government and running Cuba. It's not Cuba. It's analogous to a real life tropical island, but you are kidnapped. Your friends are all kidnapped, and you're left to rescue your friends and explore this lush tropical island in typical Far Cry fashion. It is like exemplifying what Ubisoft does with open world and exploration and quests and side quests and collectibles and all those things. But yeah, I've played Far Cry 1, Far Cry 2, and Far Cry 3, and 3 is by far the best so far. And I'm eager to play 4, 5, and 6. I have all 3 of them, and I'm ready to go. I just need time. So yeah, Far Cry 3, I highly recommend. The story is actually really, really cool. There's a bunch of like psychedelic cool things that happen in the game, and there's some plot twists and really cool things. I love Far Cry 3. And there's a reason why it's beloved amongst Far Cry fans. So go check it out.
Cool. All right, next one I have played, and more importantly, my wife has played and beat this game, Journey.
Oh my gosh, Journey.
Yeah, just, again, incredible things coming out of the indie space. This, of course, being indie backed by Sony, Santa Monica Studios, and Annapurna. Annapurna, who backed this. They didn't make it, but they backed it, right? Or is it that they made it? Yeah, no, they just backed it. So that game company, that game company in partnership with Santa Monica. That's right, and they made this game. So it is great. It is so good. It kind of did just such revolutionary stuff coming out around this time. Did something that to my knowledge, has not really been done the same way before. But you're traveling along, and you eventually run into someone who looks just like you, and you think it's just an NPC there to help you out. And then the kind of reveal is that you've been playing when you beat the game, if you beat it together, It's like, oh, you were playing with this actual person the whole time. You didn't know you were playing online with friends. How cool. But really kind of like experimenting with the idea of like communicating without having to talk. Up to that point, like online gaming was synonymous with like voice chat, right? So Santa Monica and that game company are just like experimenting with the idea of like what does communication look like without voice chat? How can you create a game where you can meaningfully communicate without having voice chat, so much so that you wouldn't even realize that the other person was a person while still being able to effectively communicate. So genius, but super short game, really riffing off the cell shading and cartoony style that
absolutely gorgeous.
Right, that
every scene is like a painting. I want to like screenshot the entire game and hang it everywhere in my house. Like it's
right,
absolutely stunning.
But it speaks to the idea that like, oh, you know, the cell shading experiment that Nintendo worked with, like this is proof of like this is continuing to prove itself as like an effective visual style even here, where it's like, yeah, nope, this game will never really ever look bad even 10 years later, right? So
yeah, it was a perfect mix of like the music with a breathtaking musical score, and like it crescendoed with the moments and it was slowed down with the other moments. A wide range of emotions, wonder, fear, sadness, overcoming obstacles. Like this game just like evokes so much out of a human being. And because it's such a small experience, like anyone can jump in, and it's not technically difficult as far as a video game is concerned. You can play through it with ease. I think it'd be a great game for newcomers to video games in general, to see what kind of storytelling it can do and how video games can be art. Like we talk about way back in episode 0, can games be art? This is one of the examples where it's high art in video games. It's there. So if you have not experienced Journey, find a way to experience it on modern console platforms. Somehow it's there. It's everywhere, I think. But except for like the Switch. I don't think you can get it on Switch. But yeah, Journey.
Yeah. All right. Next is Hotline Miami by Devolver Digital for PC. No earthly idea what we're talking about here.
All right. Hotline Miami is a top-down twin-stick shooter, and I bought it on sale. I have it on my Vita. I was playing it on the planes to Hawaii and back, and I thought I would love this game because it sounds nuts. It's got this 80s like cyberpunk vibe, but top-down shooter, and it's a twin stick, super action oriented, and you're supposed to run in and just act impulsively. In fact, the game encourages you to do so. You just run in, but it's also you die in one hit. So 50 deaths on level 1 later, I finally managed to get through it. So it's kind of like at the meta level, a puzzle game, because you have to figure out how to traverse all the different types of enemies and what kind of weapons they have. And I find it extraordinarily infuriating at this point. I got through, out of the 16 levels, I think I'm on level 13, and I have no desire to like finish this game. It's incredibly frustrating. All you do is die over and over and over again. And the moment you make any headway, the next thing you didn't know about is going to kill you in one hit. So you have to constantly like, you barely get through one scene by the skin of your teeth, and then you have immediate death afterward, and you have to get through that thing you just barely got through again. And it requires a lot of patience, which I don't have. Yet the game is extremely fast-paced and adrenaline pumping.
Fascinating. I would have. So this came out, of course, pre-Game Awards, but like its accolades are pretty impressive, right? IGN said best PC sound, best of 2012, also best PC action game and best PC story, best PC game, best overall PC action game, and best overall music. That was just IGN. Eurogamer called it the game of the show at their awards, and best music of 2012.
Yeah,
and
music's
best
great.
new IP.
Yeah.
So like, this thing won lots of awards, and people loved it for those things, right? The challenge, the ultra violence, and apparently it's got a really good story and music.
Gory.
So
yeah,
fascinating.
If there was a God mode where I could just go through and experience the story and like not ever die, you could probably play the entire game in like an hour. It'd be very, very fast. That's what I need. I want that now so I can finish the story, because the story is awesome. There's some crazy stuff going on.
Just get it on PC, or it's a PC game, right? So get it on PC and then mod it or whatever. I'm sure there's mods out
Trophies.
there. Do you want to experience the game and have the experience of it and just mod the heck out of it, or do you want to get trophies? Because you probably can't do both.
Right.
All right, then just let it go.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, it's installed on my Vita. I don't know if I ever played again, but it was a wild ride while it lasted.
For sure. All right. Walking Dead by Telltale Games. This is pretty much considered Telltale at their peak, as I understand it. And did they show up before this? don't think they did. I don't feel like we've talked about Telltale yet. So yeah, this is the only Telltale game on the list, but this was like, again, something different. They're sitting there being like, let's lean into the story. Let's kind of like play off of the old idea of the like choose your own adventure books, but also still tell kind of a linear story. But like, I think they had kind of realized something that games had lost, which is the idea that like, if the story's good enough, we don't care that the moment to moment gameplay isn't like cutting edge, right? And so that is, and then yeah, The Walking Dead supposedly is great, closer to the comics. It was like at the peak of the show's popularity, but also not trying to be the show. It was just trying to be the comics, I think. So that was
it was their 20th game.
It was a good time.
That's how long
Yeah,
Telltale
wow.
Games has been making games. Yeah, there was a Jurassic Park, a Back to the Future, Sam and Max, Tales of Monkey Island, Wallace and Gromit, Strong and Bad. I'm not going to list them all, but those are some of the highlights before Walking Dead. And then some of the stuff that's newer from them that people might recognize is like Wolf Among Us, Tales from the Borderlands,
Yes.
Game of Thrones, and they go on with the Batman one too. But yeah, so The Walking Dead really put them on the map. You're right. It was hit with the time of the popularity of the show, and I think they just hit their stride. They finally like perfected what they had. So dialogue decisions and choices, of course, abound, and you can play through the game multiple times and see like different branching stories and stuff, or at least like little pieces of dialogue. So yeah, it's good stuff. It's a good
Sweet.
like
all right,
point and clicker. Yeah. What's
absolutely.
next?
Yep. XCOM Enemy Unknown. I regularly see this game come across everything, right? And I think I've got 2. I think I've got XCOM 2
from PS Plus.
It's also pretty well received, from PS Plus, and it's always there on the back of my like backlog where it's like I'll probably get to it at some point. But it's that interesting kind of blend of like turn-based strategy meets kind of RPG meets it's got some Fallout elements with the whole idea of like percentages of chance to hit things as you kind of like it's kind of like got the my understanding of it's kind of got that what do they call it? The VATs. Like the idea of the VATs where you can like literally pick different body parts to target and get different effects. But it's aliens, right? It's the whole idea of like aliens and it's kind of like X-Files meets Final Fantasy Tactics meets Fallout meets. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, that's it, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Alien Invasion, XCOM stands for Extraterrestrial Combat Unit. Yep. So that's XCOM. Yeah. And it has the tactical things where you like move your units on a grid-based board and then you use cover. So if you played like Super Mario Kingdom Battle with the Rabbids, like the Switch game, that's kind of a more modern example of what that engine was for XCOM. It was published by 2K Games, developed by Fire Axis.
Dude, any game that comes out with these kind of reviews now, you and I would grab it just for the sake of like, okay, well, we got to experience this. Like, what the heck is this? Yeah. Even if it's not our cup of tea. So really fascinating that like this game has been sort of on the outlier. But yeah, Fire Axis, they're about to come out with XCOM, basically Marvel XCOM in the form of what's it called? Black Sun or something like that.
You've completely train wrecked it. I had the game queued up in my head to talk about. Midnight Suns. Marvel Midnight Suns. Yeah. Fire Axis games. Yep. Published by 2K.
Cool. All right.
Yep. So go check it out.
It's definitely on my list.
Like, I have it on PS3. I started it. Nice. I like fired up the title screen and got into the first level and started to dabble, and then I got pulled away.
Yeah, I feel like 2,
and then that was it.
I feel like 2 is also talked about being pretty well received. I don't see it on this list though. I wonder how it reviewed in comparison. Yeah, okay, so it's got some hits, but no, it's still getting mostly 9s and 8s, high 8s. Destructoid gave it a 7 out of 10. So say la vie, I guess, but like, yeah, no, it's doing good for itself. So cool. Well, XCOM, definitely want to know more about it myself. Next is we're finally moving to 2013. We're moving to 2013. We're blasting through these years. Look at us go. Bow, 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 bow.
Yeah.
2013 is going to start off with the Bioshock Infinite, which I am a bit torn on as far as its presence. I love Bioshock Infinite, and I believe Bioshock 1 is definitely on this list. I would say that between the 3 of them, my order of like best to worst would be Bioshock 1, then 3, then 2. So 2 missing is not like a loss, but 3 being on here is not a surprise. I would say that though, as far as this game goes, didn't really do too much different with the game itself, but because you still had the plasmids in the form of vigors, right? You still had the same basic spread of weaponry. I think they added a cool like hook shot mechanic, like a zip line, right? But other than that, like it was more or less the same feeling game. Where this game shines, of course, is in its setting and its story.
Yes.
And so the setting being the sort of turn of the century, early 1900s air cities, like flying city, and then of course being very, very like religious, kind of that religious Americana of the South. And then blending that with this sort of like futuristic Sky City, and then this like crazy mind-bending parallel universe story. The character of Elizabeth was wonderful, like wonderfully written, wonderfully performed, and then the game has just such a nutso twist at the end that I think really, I would agree, should put it on this list. But it's not a game that's perfect, right? It's a game that's got its faults. Even as far as the storytelling goes, there are some unfortunate choices I think that were made in hindsight that wouldn't really measure up by today's standards.
Are you talking about like the last third of the game?
Yeah, like the Vox, right? The plot with the uprising black, like violent black people is just a little bit like,
yep.
It's I wouldn't say it's, I don't know. It's hard. I think with everything that's happened in the country in the last like 7 years, no more than that, 9 years since this game came out. Like it's a bit like, okay, it doesn't really live up.
No, it probably doesn't
measure
well.
up. Yeah, no, it doesn't age well. I remember playing it actually since.
Or it's just too real. Like, this is what we live in. This is the world we live in, and therefore it's a good game. It makes you think that. Like,
yes, no, that the game makes you think, and that's great. And the game does not. The game does not like. I would say this. The game does not sit there and like unnecessarily like angelicalize like black people either, right? So it doesn't sit there and say like they can do no wrong just because they've been persecuted, right? Like it does give them a bite, an edge, and it does present a circumstance where they are justified in their anger and violence taken out towards their oppressors, and yet the story still plays it off as like they must be stopped, where it's like, you know what, it's complicated. I would have rather them leaned into the complications of it instead of just making them full on villains. It's all in the form of like one particular character who just goes full villain mode for good reason, but also like they could have gone more morally gray with it. It doesn't help that you are like a white man and she is a black woman, and it's just like, and you know, it's tough too. There's also some weird dynamics with the whole like Elizabeth is almost this helpless. She's not helpless entirely. It's not like an escort mission. They did some really cool things with the turning the idea of the escort on its head, where she actually helps you, but then like she's still just kind of at the end of the day a damsel in distress, and you are her big strong man there to save her. It's hard. It's weird. There's a cool twist at the end, though, so I won't say it's completely done. But that's exactly your point, right? It's a game that certainly is complicated with moral grayness, and I mean, it's a product of its time too, because that was a time where we were wrestling with all of these ideas. So maybe not hold up, quote unquote, by today's standards, may not be quote unquote woke by today's standards, but it's also 9 years old, and 9 years is a long time for social progress. And I think it was the most like challenging game it could be to the status quo at its time. But
and what I loved about it was I think it used those cultural things that we would define as not woke and exposes them to us through the game. Like, this is the America we live in. That's how bad it is.
Oh,
still, like, here it is. You know, it's...
And we were all in denial at that point. That was what's crazy. Like, now we recognize that and say, 100%.
Yep.
But at the time, it was like, no way. No, we've moved past so much of that. Thank God we've moved past so much of that. But like,
no, we didn't.
Right, exactly.
Man, I need to go play this game again. Oh my gosh.
Know, right? Yeah. They're telling us like they're holding the mirror up and saying wrong. Like, no, you are still this. And if the last 9 years told us anything, it's like, yep, no, we still live in Bioshock Infinite's America.
There's like a poster for this game. I guess it'd be the last point I will make about this game. But there's a poster for it that's been floating around on Twitter lately as a result of June 24th and what happened, the Supreme Court decision. And it's the poster is from the game artwork, and at the top it's "For God and Country," and it has like a picture of George Washington holding a Liberty Bell and like the Constitution, and then under it says, "It is our holy duty to guard against the foreign hordes." That's Bioshock Infinite. There you go, folks.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
Crazy. All right, cool. Well, then, we I think we waxed eloquent most about that game more than any of them. So good on us. Good on Bioshock. All right, Dota 2 is next. I don't have much to say about this other than, I guess it was at the time the primary competitor to League of Legends, and League of Legends is on that list earlier. So hopefully our MOBA experts can come in and tell us why Dota deserves to be on this list versus League of Legends. As far as I'm concerned, they're more or less indistinguishable. So,
this is made by Valve, right? And this is the official sequel to the Warcraft 3 mod. So MOBAs, the genre, came out of Warcraft 3, a user mod we talked about this when we did talk about League of Legends, and like League of Legends was a spinoff of the mod. Well, Defense of the Ancients, that's Dota. This is the official sequel. Valve bought the rights to it. They paid the money. They've developed the game, and Valve can do no wrong. So if you want to play a MOBA, apparently this is the best one from 2013.
Cool. All right, cool.
Yep.
Moving on. Next is Grand Theft Auto 5.
Woo!
The
second
game,
most revenue-generating video game of all time.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Minecraft
like
being the first.
this and Skyrim, like also just being remastered on everything, just because why not put it out again? Even as recently as this year, they did it on
PS5 and Xbox Series X.
Exactly. Yep. So, yeah. I mean, you talk about this game because I haven't played it. So, I mean...
oh, my goodness. Okay. Yeah. So, everything you like about Grand Theft Auto that has ever happened is perfected in Grand Theft Auto 5. It has the biggest open world, the biggest sandbox, but they follow the story over 3 characters that each have unique characteristics, and they each have their own unique story that like come together, and you switch between them all. It is a wonderful satire of our society with the social media, the advent of social media. Like 2013, it was really becoming and taking its stride as to what Facebook was, how we were engaging with things like Instagram, and it took all of like the city life, urban life, and just made fun of it, like used it all as like how silly is our society. So it has weighty, heavy societal thoughts and conversation generating ideas woven through this game. This game's awesome. So if you do have a chance to pick it up on modern consoles, just play through the story. You don't have to worry about all the side stuff. Like, it really isn't that big of a lift, and you can run through the story relatively quickly, probably 20 to 30 hours, and enjoy like LA. And the driving mechanics were the best they've ever been. So like, I guess it's Rockstar Games, right? So they did it. Like Grand Theft Auto 5. There's a whole online thing, and that's what's generating their revenue, the GTA Online, and that's the second most revenue-generating video game of all time, I think. I don't know where Fortnite stands in that list.
It's also
Minecraft and
hated.
GTA 5,
My understanding is this: for as much as the like single-player story game of Grand Theft Auto 5 is beloved, the online Grand Theft Auto Online, treated almost like a separate game, is basically reviled because people credit Grand Theft Auto Online and its massive revenue generating success as the reason why there's no Grand Theft Auto 6 almost 9 years later, right? Like there's no Grand Theft Auto 6, there's no Grand Theft Auto 6 in sight, and people are like, if we're being honest with ourselves, Rockstar has zero reason to do that because Grand Theft Auto Online is so profitable for them
still.
So
even now,
I mean, but to be fair to Rockstar, they just released Red Dead Redemption 2 like 4 years ago, so it's not like a game, and we're gonna have a whole conversation soon about like why game development cycles are getting longer, and so there's no reason to reasonably expect that they could just turn around after RDR2 and release GTA 6. So calm down, Grand Theft Auto fans. But also, I also understand your reasoning, right? The idea that like when you have a cash cow like that, there's no reason to just give it up. So like, anyways, so 2013, The Last of Us.
Oh, full stop. That's it. Mic drop. Last of Us 1. Wow.
It's about to come out remastered for the PS5 this year. And yeah, I mean, I even like fired this game up after about, let's see, it would have been 5 years. Yeah, after 5 years after it came out, because I played it like around the same time I played God of War. And yeah, even then it held up and it still holds up. Just, this is kind of like peak video game storytelling, right? Like maybe not the absolute peak, but like we're reaching the top of Everest here, right? Like this is where I'm not saying there weren't great stories before it, but like they really just sort of, I mean, Naughty Dog doing something completely different, right? They've been doing Uncharted for a while, and now they're like, here, we're going to do something now wholly different, and it just worked. They nailed it. So yeah, I mean, there's not so much to say. I mean, the mechanics were fine. As a game, it works fine, but it's not doing anything that hasn't been done before. So this game lived and died on its story, and still does to this day. And yet they're making such bold choices. They're doing such interesting things. They're not just telling your same like video game story where the hero is the hero and the hero prevails, right? Like this is moral complexity at its finest, and it's some of the best writing that I think the medium has to offer. So
yeah, and voice acting and animation quality and technical prowess. Like graphically, this game soars. The PS3 is like, this is the cream of the crop for that entire console generation. It's the best looking game across that, like 360 and PS3, hands down. It won Game Developers Choice Awards, BAFTA. It won DICE Awards, Game of the Year, all over the place for 2013. Again, the moral complexities, it forces the player to do a lot of things you don't want to do, to tell a really, really good story, not falling into video game tropes. And it's set in a world where a disease, very analogous to COVID, affects people and turns them into what they call, like, I guess, freakers. No, that
they're
stays
zombies.
gone.
They're just zombies. Let's not mince words here. They're zombies.
Yeah, and there's different classes
they're
of
just
zombies. It's
mushroom
post-apocalyptic,
zombies.
but like,
No, that's what I'm saying. They're not doing anything different as far as the enemies go. It's like I don't care if it's a fungus or if it's a virus or if it's like voodoo. If it runs at me and is a mindless thing that I have to smash its face in, that's a zombie.
Yes, they behave like zombies and sound like them. But post-apocalyptic, like, what do you call pack mentality world, and how humanity
the
responds
dystopian,
to things.
The idea of dystopian, right? Like your choices are either you're in like some oppressive governmental structure that's barely holding itself together, or you have to go out into the world where people are killing each other and it's all just pure anarchy. And they set up this plot of like, oh, here's someone who could be the source of a cure, and you have to get them, and you think that's what the story is, right? They set up this idea of this very basic, like, get the MacGuffin girl to MacGuffin land where she can MacGuffin her way into saving the world. And then they're like, nope, that's not the story we're telling now. That's not the story they're telling.
Nope.
And it's great. They nailed it. Yeah. So
love it.
Cool. All right.
Let's do 2014.
This is the turning point. Yeah, I think we can do 2014, but I think we'll stop there instead of trying to push all the way to the end just because we got another episode to record. But so we can talk about in 2014, changing the year here, it's only going to be 2. So finally, we've gone from like 6 or 7 entries per year, and now we've whittled down to like we're getting 2, right? So we're blasting through these years. So Destiny will be the first on this one. I mean, this is the first one that I'm sitting here being like, I don't know, because what is Destiny, right? Like it's a live service game, right? So can you really say that the Destiny of 2014 looks anything like the Destiny of now?
No.
And how are they judging it? How are they judging it based on its like? Are they putting it on this list because of what it's become, or are they putting it on this list because of what it was then? I don't really know. To be fair, the same thing could be said about World of Warcraft, but yeah. So here we are, though, Destiny, right? Like, what did Destiny do right? Bungie, of course, coming off of their break with Microsoft, passing the torch of Halo on to 343, and this is the first thing they came out with, and it was billed as an MMO light, right? This is before we had the term live service game, and so they were calling, so, what do we call this game? Well, it's kind of like an MMO. You play with your friends online, but it's not, like, huge and expansive like an MMO is. You're going to only ever be playing with a few people at a time, so they use this term, like, MMO light or shared shooter world thing. Like, I don't know, but what it did right was, I mean, it kind of took the idea of like Borderlands looter shooter and made it into something that was a multiplayer, ever-changing world, content constantly coming out, long form storytelling of like, yeah, we're going to set up bad guys and we're going to set up plot threads that you're going to get in February of 2015, and then we're going to like pay them off in January of 2016, right? Like, you're gonna get this sort of long form storytelling, and there's some interesting discussion as to whether or not like Destiny 2 is just basically Destiny continued on, right? Like, so like it's sort of the same, the thread is still there if the content isn't. So
Destiny 2 is not on this list, but
Destiny 2 is not, but like again, it's like, okay, well, it's just the same game, just with like an updated engine and kind of like a content refresh.
Destiny is on this list because it did start the new genre. The games as a service entire idea, the whole paradigm was set right here. Activision published this. Activision has Call of Duty money, and they put a whole bunch of money. The biggest budget ever at the time was like $250 million put into Destiny. Bungie, of course, being the developers of Halo, and they left Microsoft. They got acquired by Activision and were put to their prowess. So it's the best first-person shooter experience you're going to ever find on consoles. It feels good. It feels better than anything else ever did. Like, they just nail how a first-person shooter feels mechanically. And they took a space world and they allowed people to play together. And the ideas of it's always online all the time, which forced a bunch of subscriptions, eye roll, and the content you like as the world evolves and requires players to buy new content, I roll again because of the microtransaction-ish kind of monetization strategy. It was the first of its type to like change the world so much that what's on the disc is irrelevant and you can never play that again because you can't play the game not online. So the disc is completely useless, but it would gate away new old content as new would come in because the quote world would change. So those quests and those objectives and missions you were doing as a friend group when the game launched are no longer even available because they're just not there. The world has changed.
And they would be, I mean, I feel like Bungie, so not only did this game not launch very well, meaning that like when this game first came out, it was raked over the coals for being like pretty vapid, shallow, and too little content.
Yeah.
Which of course was the point, right? They're going to add content to it as they go. But then like I feel like every few months or so I'm seeing some new freaking controversy about Destiny, right? And they've gone through so many iterations of different things and so many controversies. It's like, can we say this is a good game? Can we say this is a best game of all time? I'm not denying it's not impactful, but I just don't think it's good, right? Like there's a difference there. Yes, it had a huge impact. Yes, it, like you said, kind of revitalized the genre, but like, I feel like no one hates Destiny more than Destiny fans, and that seems very clear in the way they discourse about it. And no one hates Bungie more than Bungie fans at this point, too, because it's just like they keep messing up the good things of the game. And like that's no clearer to me in the idea of like sunsetting content where they were like, yeah, we're going to make it so this can't ever be good again. So screw you if you invested time and effort into it, or yeah, we're going to lock this away in a content vault and you're never going to get to play it. So if you're a newcomer, sorry. Even World of Warcraft didn't do that crap, right? Like, so weird. All right, well, yeah, I could complain about Destiny all day, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, we'll talk about Shovel Knight, 2D platformer.
Just played this recently too. Look at that.
Yeah,
like,
did you? Did you now?
So one of the like I'm going back. This is backlog season, right? There's no big new titles, so I just been playing things I should be playing forever ago, and Shovel Knight was one of them. I was like, this is like the cream of the crop. Actually, Sacred Symbols episode 200, the best PS4 games of all time, Shovel Knight came up in one of the individuals lists. And so I was like, okay, I got to play this game. I've heard nothing but amazing things about it since 2014. And it really is like the NES level platformer that plays wonderfully. The music and the themes and the exploration and the levels, level design and everything else is awesome. It's wonderful. It's a great game. I personally didn't jive with it too much. I did finish the main story and I plan to go back and do some trophy hunting on some simple things to like knock out the game. Not going to get the platinum, but it's good. It's fun. It's solid. It's mechanically sound. The music's great.
How I feel about Shovel Knight. So I feel about Hollow Knight. Yeah, so various different games.
Yep.
It is fun though. I've been playing Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, and there's an homage to Shovel Knight. There's an enemy called like that's basically like the shovel armor or something like that, and it looks exactly like Shovel Knight and it throws rocks at you. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, this game was very, very well beloved, even by other video game.
Hey, Nintendo even partnered with Yacht Club Games, the developers, to make an amiibo, a Shovel Knight amiibo figure.
And he's a trophy. He's a what do you call it? Assist trophy in Smash. So.
There you go. Yep. So Shovel Knight's everywhere, and I understand why. The game is beloved. It is like playing a solid NES title on modern consoles. So
yeah.
NES
they say they draw inspiration from Castlevania 3 specifically, Adventure of Link, Zelda 2, Super Mario's 3, Mega Man, and Dark Souls, as well as games DuckTales and UN Squadron, which I never played, but still fascinating that, like you said, it's this NES, heavy NES, like favoring with like a splash of Dark Souls, because of course everything's riffing off of Dark Souls at this point. So cool. That's where we'll end. Of course, picking up out of highlight. I won't spoil it, but next time we do this, and hopefully the last time. So we'll see you then next time we do that. Real quick, before we get too far into our farewells, are there any trends that you want to talk about? The one that stands out to me is just like, this is the second time I think in this list where there's a point where I was like, oh yeah, you can start to see the beginning of PC dominance. But like, look at this list, dude. 2011 is everything is at least got a PC version, right?
Yep.
And I mean, the part of it is due to the fact that again, the PC and the Xbox 360 share the same architecture, but also just it goes to show just how popular PC gaming. I mean, I can see where people were saying that PC gaming was going to overtake consoles during this era. And like, you don't see the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 show up until
Destiny.
Exactly.
That was
so
my,
you don't even see them.
Well, they didn't come out until 2013.
Yeah.
Late 2013. It was when they were released.
But it still, but it still took like, you don't see them regularly showing up even until 2015 with The Witcher. And I know there's not a lot on this list yet, but you don't see PC fall off until
Right.
Stardew Valley, right? So that's my point, is like we will get back to console dominance in regards to games of best games of all time. But in the meantime, PC is clinging on, you know what I mean? And really, really making them.
What was going on here? We, like you just highlighted, from 2013, November was the release of the next generation. So from 2006 to 2013 was one generation. It was the longest console generation of all time because of the 2008 economic crisis. Yeah, the hardware was super aging. So we really saw PC rise to the cream of the crop. Like, everything was available because the multi-platform is the most profitable. Like you said, the 360 was the same architecture as PC. And so everything was available across everything. Everyone was getting PCs because they could upgrade the hardware way beyond the console spec. And everything online worked better. Things like Discord were coming out, stuff like chat and integrated stuff. Streaming was starting to take off a little bit, Twitch and things, YouTube gaming, Facebook gaming. Right. And so all of that was happening kind of in the background. But I also want to highlight two other things about this list that we've talked about tonight. From 2011 through 14, in that one, no Nintendo at all, except for a 3DS release of Shovel Knight, which was not its primary console. So Nintendo, what's going on, right? That was like
what's going on is the Wii U.
The Wii U was going on at that time. The Wii U came out in like 2012.
And even the 3DS was like not really doing much beyond just sort of like re-releasing old games from the N64, right? Like I know they had some good Pokemon titles and stuff in there, but those aren't showing up here.
Right.
So it's like Nintendo did not have a lot going on for it during this particular chunk of time. Correct. And they wouldn't until the Switch comes out. And boy, would it come out with a bang.
It did.
So we'll come back around to the Switch. Exactly.
That I was going to make is there's no Xbox exclusive here.
Yep.
At all, which means you have cross-platform games and PS3 exclusives because, like I've always said, and I beat this drum, the PlayStation 3 came back. It outsold and out-reviewed the Xbox by the end of the console life cycle, and we got here.
Yep.
And with games like Journey and Last of Us both showing up in tonight's episode from 2011 to 13.
Strong highlights, but in they're islands in a sea of cross-platform and PC games, right?
Yep.
Like PC outdoes it by one title, exclusive title, right? You've got Dota, you've got Hotline Miami, and you've got Minecraft. And those are the only other exclusives, like console exclusive on this list. And I think this might be the era that we've talked the most about PC exclusives, which just goes to show that this era was really
and it was a legit
PCs.
Like people really smart about economics and marketplace and gaming industry stuff. Like when you get into business, the gamesindustry.biz website, like there was legit concern that consoles would not make it
just
past this. It would just go to PC and mobile devices.
And you can see, I mean, I believe it. There was a time where I didn't believe it, but now I'm looking at it. Because hindsight's 2020, right? But like, I was playing PC games during this whole time, right?
Yeah.
So this was my height of both World of Warcraft and Steam, and I wouldn't start to fall off of it for a few years after this. So it would have been 2014 actually when I started to fall off, right? And even then, I was still playing Steam games. I still wasn't trophy hunting. I had no interest in any of that. It wouldn't be till like Switch, PlayStation, and it wouldn't be till Switch and like around the Destiny 2 time that I would even be interested in breaking out of the PC space.
You're welcome.
And
that's my fault.
Thank you, I guess. Yeah, you're welcome. Anyway, so all that to say that like I would eventually, of course, make the jump, and the rest is history. And now I am a full blown sold on now I've 180'd on that point. But it just, again, it goes to show that even in my own personal history, I can sort of speak to the relevance of that particular fear.
Yeah, so, it's a great little snapshot of the gaming industry at this time. Like it was a very unique little flash in the pan over, I say flash in the pan, but it was like 4 or 5 years of PC dominance. So it's really cool. Yep.
So hit on all those points. We want to hear more of those thoughts again, whether it's an individual on this list or whether it's the trends and what's missing, all that good stuff. We want to hear it and discuss it with you. So, Termite, where can they share their thoughts if they have them?
You can tell me all about your PlayStation 3 greatest hits from 2011, 12, and 13 over at 80bitpodsmash.com. That's our landing website, 80bitpodsmash, where you can find links to all of our social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Twitter, as well as our Discord server. You can jump in and have a conversation about your favorite games, as well as if you are listening to us by way of, say, YouTube or on Twitch, or you found a business card from us and you're wondering what other audio platforms we are a part of, you have links to Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, any platform you want. We're there. And our RSS feed link is also available to you to throw onto any third-party app of your choice. So please hit us up. We would love your feedback. We'd love to have a conversation with y'all. Let us know.
Excellent. All right. Next week, which will be 2 minutes from now for us, we will be talking about the Streisand effect. It's something that I've been wanting to talk about in this podcast since pretty much 2019, right? Because of a specific incident that happened with Activision Blizzard then. And if you don't know what the Streisand effect is, I won't spoil it for you. I will just leave it as this nebulous thing that you will either Google and find out for yourself, or wait till next week when you can find out about it all on the podcast. So we'll talk about it then. But until then, see you next week.
See you next week.